Thank you, Sue. Let's see if we can get this presentation on for you. Oh, we've gone one slide. There we go. Here we are.
There is a strategy.
And a lot bigger than you'll see on TV.
Always go back.
How did you decide that this was your mission?
That's amazing.
It's harder than it looks.
Here I am.
So some great video footage there from some of our projects in the last 12 months. And some great stats as well, and I'm going to talk about them a little bit more detailed later. But what I wanted to start with is just give you a little bit of a background and introduction to me. Sue went over some of this, but I began my career back in 2007 working on documentaries when I came out of university. Actually, 2005. 2007, I joined CNN. My career has been a fusion of two great passions. It's about factual journalism and factual reporting, and an obsession with VOD services. When I came out of university, one of the things that I found fascinating was this new platform that had just emerged called YouTube. I mean, it was a small kind of operation back then, servicing lots of pixelated videos, one of the juggernauts of our industry. And that's really, when you fuse those two things together, that's how I ended up with CNN. I started working on documentaries, but separate to that, when I was a freelancer, I was also setting up video operations for places like the BBC, but also anybody that would listen to me when I'm talking about digital video. So I set up video platforms for shopping TV channels, for private businesses. And in 2007, I saw an opportunity to join CNN. So it was this merging of this documentary fascination that I had and this VOD fascination and this product growth opportunity. When I joined CNN in 2007, it was as a video editor and publisher. And what that meant back then was we didn't have anyone specialist working on digital videos. We were publishing TV videos online. And we published probably about 100 of them a day to our global audience. And back in those days, we were getting about 500,000 video views per month. When I left in 2007, after heading up the news operation, we were getting about 50 million a month on the international arm. And that's a small proportion when you think about CNN Global and the domestic audience that we have, which is generally about 8 times bigger. So I became CNN's head of international news video in 2011. And I ran that operation until I became Global Projects Commissioning Editor in 2017. And in that time, again, that's when we were covering a lot of the breaking news. We were covering it before that. But at this point, we had a fully fledged production hub working in digital video. We were making anywhere between 20 and 30 unique bespoke digital videos every single day, as well as commissioning all of our correspondents in the field and working with our broader digital news teams to make sure that we were feeding video across all of the CNN properties. And now as head of global projects, I'm still working on video, but I'm also working on a vast portfolio of editorial series, including some sponsored series like Eco Solutions or Global Gateway, or you might have seen quite a few of these if you come onto CNN regularly, as well as key editorial initiatives like Earth Day or International Women's Day, or we're about to do a big rollout for World Oceans Day on June 8th. So working across news, but also working on longer-term feature-style digital series. So that's a little bit about me, but this isn't about me, this is about CNN. That's why you all stayed in your seats this late in the day. So what is CNN in 2018? This might look familiar to you. I dare say this is what you think CNN is at the moment. We are a legacy organization that's been built around a video-centric brand, our 24-hour TV news channel. We have a website, we have an app. And those are the things that you probably see when you were looking at CNN and interacting with us in your day-to-day life. And that's what many people think CNN is. But this is actually what CNN is. And what here you can see is you can see those core properties at the bottom. CNN TV, we can see the mobile app, the mobile web and desktop. But we have a whole host of different properties that we're on and different products that we're on, including the video platforms. This is maybe where you'd expect us to be strong. We're a video-centric brand. We've built our brand off of the strength of our journalism and the quality of our video. But where you're also seeing here is you're seeing our commitment to being on as many different social platforms as possible. Everything from Instagram stories to Line and Kick that have an average age of about 5 years old. And then we have the emerging off-platform products. And these are the things that we are constantly adding. This bubble chart represents the chaos of our industry right now. The fight to be on as many screens as possible and reach as many people as possible. And this bubble chart is constantly evolving. And we're normally adding more to it than we're taking off. So there's more VR services, there's more AI services, there are more voice services now and voice products that we need to be on. So we're constantly looking at where we are against our competitive set, what new emerging technologies are available, and what new platforms are available, and we're thinking about what we can add to those as a product to those platforms distinctively. And as well as those different products and those different platforms that we're on, we obviously have different properties within our portfolio. You know CNN, but we also have CNN Go, which is our live streaming app. You can watch CNN live anywhere in the world. You have all of the different social channels. But within CNN broader portfolio, we also have what we call the premium verticals: politics, money, style, travel, and Arabic there. And there's some others you could add. You could add sports to that, and you could add health to that as well. These are areas where we have expert staff reporting to more focused audiences. And I'll talk you through why we do that in a little while. But these all contribute into the CNN's editorial coverage, as well as Great Big Story there. Great Big Story is kind of a separate entity. And I'd argue that all of these different brands, CNN Politics, Money, Style, Travel, Arabic, they all have their own editorial agenda and they work independently. But they also connected to the juggernaut that is CNN. They have very focused teams. Great Big Story is something a little bit separate to CNN. That's a video platform aimed at millennials that targets a social and YouTube audience. Fantastic video. If you haven't ever been to see Great Big Story, I recommend that you go and watch them, follow them on your Facebook feed, and you'll be delighted with all the different video formats that you have on there. Really great storytelling experience. So with all of those different things in working with us, all those different platforms, as well as the different properties that we're managing and those different premium sections that I mentioned, we needed to fill our newsroom with digital-focused expertise. And this is what we started off with when I was here 11 years ago. This is pretty much the role of a digital journalist, was to write, produce, and publish to the web. We now have a vast number of staff working on digital, and it's really difficult sometimes to separate who works on TV to who works on digital, because we're all working on the same products across multiple different screens. But here we have, I've highlighted some of these in red. We've got audience growth specialists, SEO specialists, we have programmers of all sorts, product managers, designers, developers, as well as those other things that I've added to that top bar, videographers, social experts. And if you were going to start by building a tech organization that was journalism-focused, I'd probably start with these things that I've highlighted in red, because those are the things that lay the foundations for your core architecture. These are the things that are going to help you reach your audiences. All of those other things are fantastic as well. We need high-quality journalism. That's the thing that's going to make your brand. But the things in red are the things that are also going to get you to those audiences and deliver your impactful journalism widely. So that's a little bit about CNN, where we are, the type of products we have, and the type of staff we have. And it's all focused at the moment on delivering you the best journalism in the world to whatever device that you're holding. But the dominant device is this one right here, is your mobile device. And there's a big reason for that, and there's a big reason that media organizations are focused so aggressively on mobile. For CNN, 60% of our audience are on mobile. That's a huge number, and it's increased, and it's only in the last couple of years that we've overtaken our desktop audience. And we're programming 35 different platforms. Most of those are actually mobile platforms, if you consider the app as well, and the various different apps that we have. And if you think about that 60% of that audience from the international side, we have 208 million unique visitors coming every month. And 60% of those are coming to us on mobile. And that's why we are so aggressively targeting that mobile audience and the mobile experience. You can see there, flashing through on the side of the screen, these are some bespoke mobile treatments that we've given to stories. And wherever we're designing a story to be told, we think mobile first. And those are the two pillars for us, mobile and video. I've mentioned both of them so far in our talk. So CNN's mission in 2018, given that mobile and that video focus. Our digital philosophy is to reach the right audience on the right device at the right time with the right content. So tailoring experiences for the right audience on the right device at any time. And we're pretty good at it. We're number one in online news destination. We're number one in news video, number one in mobile news. And we're number one in millennial audience, and pretty much everything else that you want to be number one in globally. So it's working. But we're still refining this strategy because we know that where we are isn't where we need to be. And we're always thinking about where we're going. So our news mission for this year, with that in mind, is to maintain that competitive rank through our news service. But we're focusing this year on increasing the engagement. Getting people in is not going to be enough for us. We need to keep them for longer. We need to turn those passive users into dedicated followers. And we need to maintain our brand ubiquity across all platforms. And we're looking as well to experiment in doing more live video programming. That's been our strength historically, and that's what we want to get back into on our digital products. So we're thinking about all of these things when we're commissioning our news stories, and we are figuring out what our approach is going to be to all those different products that I talked to you about earlier. For the verticals, there's a bit of a separate strategy. I mentioned to you that they have dedicated teams and expertise in place. So we have a very dedicated money team that focuses on business news, our style team and travel team working in tourism and in fashion and design, and the politics team, they're kind of busy right now. It's an unprecedented presidency, so they've got their hands full. And the idea behind each of these premium verticals is to identify valuable audiences that are niche and serve them with niche news, but also filter back some of that expertise into our core news products. And I'll talk to you a little bit about that and how that worked on the royal wedding, Princess Harry and Meghan Markle's royal wedding, just so we're not confused, a bit later on. And the idea is well behind developing and investing in these premium businesses is that they offer us opportunities commercially. We can charge a higher CPM for advertising than eCPM because we have safe zones within our core news product where advertisers can come to us and feel safe that their advertisement's not going to be rolling out against the Syria war and conflicts that you see there. So they give us opportunities commercially as well. Great Big Story is kind of the same thing. It gave us opportunities commercially, but allowed us to reach a new audience. And we're trying to do the same thing with all of these different content themes that we can see here. Google AMP, Stamp, AR, voice activation, personalization, automation, AI. We're looking at new ways to tell stories, constantly trying to evolve our brands and trying to connect with audiences that aren't necessarily coming to us for our legacy platforms, our TV coverage, but also our digital properties. That brings me on to our executive editorial goal. So thinking about all of those different services that we want to provide to our audience, we want to deliver distinctive and trusted news, constantly evolving. That's regardless of wherever we're putting our chips and wherever we're making our investment, our core news product is the most important thing to us, period. We want to focus on growing key audiences and segments with key content, feeding those niche audiences and building up new user bases coming to our site. Identify and act on data-led opportunities and trends. We're constantly looking at our data in live time, in reflection when we finish projects, but also when we are interacting with our audience as well. And I'm going to go over some of that again a little bit later. And again, I've got a couple of other points there. We want to partner more closely with our commercial revenue teams to identify opportunities to build new products and explore new technology. So we're constantly thinking about where we can reach that audience. But because this is a masterclass, I've given you a little bit of background about CNN. I'm sure most of you know who CNN is. But I wanted to give you a few of my best practices because this is a masterclass and because it's something to take away some of the things that I've learned through my career about how to engage in audiences. And this first bit's about content, about making your content sing because you only really get one chance per story to engage with the audience. Rule number one, put good work out there and make it count. I mentioned earlier that we're constantly trying to provide new experiences on mobile platforms. And it could be mobile, it could be desktop, it could be some form of social storytelling. We are trying to tailor our experiences to the platform. This is one called Global Warming. It's an environmental piece from the melting glaciers in Greenland. And this focuses on the craft of storytelling, offering you up a unique experience that's intuitive with the device that you're using. This was enabled by the new digital team. In 2016, we had a $20 million investment in digital at CNN. And this investment has been put into products exactly like this one, or experiences and storytelling solutions like this one. You can see text is there merging beautifully with infographics and video content. And when we build something like this that's intuitive to its device, we see incredibly high level of engagement with audiences. And this is where we are trying to build upon. It's products like this and projects like this that we're trying to build upon. One example here for you, I recommend that you have a quick look at it outside of here. It's the Greenland. If you Google Greenland and CNN, this is the first thing that's going to come up. Here's another one. I'm going to show you a quick video by my colleague, Nemet El-Bagir, the award-winning international correspondent. This is a report that she did from Libya on the slave trade.
A man addressing an unseen crowd. Big strong boys for farm work, he says. 400. 700. 700? 800. The numbers roll in. These men are sold for 1,200 Libyan pounds, $400 apiece. You are watching an auction of human beings. Another man, claiming to be a buyer. Off camera, someone asks, "What happened to the ones from Niger?" Sold off, he's told. CNN was sent this footage by contact. After months of working, we were able to verify the authenticity of what you see here. We decided to travel to Libya to try and see for ourselves.
We're now in Tripoli and we're starting to get a little bit more of a sense of how this all works. Our contacts are telling us that there are 1 to 2 of these auctions every month and that there is one happening in the next few hours. So we're going to head out of town and see if we can get some sort of access to it.
For the safety of our contacts, we have agreed not to divulge the location of this auction, but the town we're driving to isn't the only one. Night falls. We travel through nondescript suburban neighborhoods, pretending to look for a missing person. Eventually, we stop outside a house like any other. Adjust our secret cameras and wait. Finally, it's time to move. We're ushered into one of 2 auctions happening on this same night. Crouched at the back of the yard, a floodlight obscuring much of the scene. One by one, men are brought out as the bidding begins. 400. 500. 550. 600. 650. 700. Very quickly, it's over. We ask if we can speak to the men. The auctioneer, seen here, refuses. We ask again if we can speak to them, if we can help them. No, he says. The auction's over, we're told. And we're asked to leave. That was over very quickly. We walked in, and as soon as we walked in, the men started covering their faces, but they clearly wanted to finish what they were doing, and they kept bringing out what they kept referring to in Arabic as al-budaa, the merchandise. All in all, they admitted to us that there were 12 Nigerians that were sold in front of us. And I honestly don't know what to say. That was probably one of the most unbelievable things I've ever seen.
If they don't want to take us to Italy, let them.
I'm going to stop that there because I think it goes on for quite some time, but I wanted to give you a flavour of that story. Earlier on, I said to you that sometimes it's hard to tell who's a TV journalist and who's a digital journalist. And I wanted to elaborate on that a little bit more. This is the digital story for Nema's piece out of Libya. When we assign a project to someone like Nema and we commission that, what we do is we think about how we're going to use this report as a network. And Nema works with her very, very closely. This story was actually written by Nema. So when she goes out, she's also thinking about the elements that she needs to gather to tell her story on digital. I mean, that's a huge shift in our industry, and it's taken quite a long time. But we now work very, very closely with our television colleagues to plan and process all of these different assignments. And that's one of the big benefits that we've seen from that big investment into digital. We start with a morning meeting every single day, a daily news meeting. And that news meeting actually used to be two separate meetings. It used to be a digital meeting and a TV meeting. The TV meeting first and then the digital meeting. But now it's one morning news agenda meeting that's actually run by the head of digital EMEA, Blanid Healy. And she talks through the news stories of the day, what she's seeing from our analytics, and feeds that back into making more informed decisions about who we're covering and the audience that we're serving. This story is proof that that strategy is working. Not only wasn't it award-winning from just about every prestigious journalism prize, but it was also the #3 story of the year. That wasn't a breaking news story. I mean, if anyone works on breaking news digital, you see that you have a huge spike when a big news story hits. And normally, the top 20 stories are related to that huge spike. And it's normally that somebody has died out of the blue, or there has been a plane crash, or some type of natural disaster has occurred. So to have a story like this, which is an original investigative piece of reporting, as #3 on the site, is a huge accomplishment, because it just shows the extent of its reach and how, when you plan things together, you can actually deliver impactful stories to a mass audience. And this story also triggered government dialogue and changes in legislation and further reporting. The UN got in touch with us after this as well. So multiple further reporting off the back of this one story. So when you approach it holistically, you can actually make a really fascinating and really intriguing story reach its audience, and really important stories as well, like this one. This is an example of a completely different kind of story that we've done on digital. But again, to just build on that point of working with our operations around the world, simultaneously, holistically, to create bespoke stories. This is a project called Life Supported. It's an Earth Day initiative that my team produced. And what I love about this story in particular, it's not just that we've built it and it looks great and it's now used in schools all over the world. It's actually that for this story, there was one story per hour of the day. And the idea was it would read your device, it would tell you what time of day it is, and it would give you a statistic about some form of environmental damage that's relatable to the time of day that you're in. And it worked globally, but there's 24 stories, one for each hour. And each of those 24 stories came from a separate bureau all over the world, because they're 24 stories from 24 different countries, from 24 different reporters. And some of those are TV reporters that are working and filing copy for digital. Some of them are digital reporters that then took to television to be interviewed about the story that they wrote on our digital platform. And some of them are freelancers and various different members of the teams that we have located all over the world, as well as using our team of animators in-house and our team of graphic builders and our writers, as well as the developers and the designers who built the app. So it's a truly global, truly cross-departmental project that we released for Earth Day. Again, just enhancing that idea that when you work together, you can create something impactful and something that's unique and services your audience on a particular medium. I've got this as another example of offering different storytelling. This is a desktop treatment. Again, we're just trying to do different things. This is before and after shots within Syria. When you're so many years into the Syria conflict, like we are now, and we've been telling the same stories over and over again, you're always looking for impactful ways to reach your audience and to show them the type of devastation and the reason behind why we have a mass migration issue from Syria. These are before and after shots, again, jumping to show you the devastation. And this was actually thought up by one of our television colleagues who pitched the idea to digital. So we brought it to life. Again, that line between TV and digital journalists is blurring. And again, just to talk you through how we break news and how we work together across the different departments. We think about when we commission and when we assign across all platforms. And we keep in touch using technology. We use WhatsApp groups. We feed those WhatsApp messages straight into our live blogs. We communicate across our teams to make sure that we avoid duplication, and we offer variety in reporting. And our news desk and social discovery team sit side by side. So the social discovery team can be feeding in their latest information straight into our news desk. And there's constant dialogues and constant lines being fed between digital editors and television editors to make sure that we have the right correspondence, the right digital video experts, the right digital design production resources located in the right areas to make sure we can tell the story across television and digital and all of our properties. This is an example from Grenfell. I haven't got video to show you here, but this is just how we responded to the Grenfell Tower fire, which was a huge story for us in the UK. Brings me on to my lesson number 2, best practice number 2. And this bit's about platforms. So we talked there about content, servicing the right type of device with the right kind of content, thinking about it holistically across departments. This is about how we think about things from a platform perspective. Choose the audience, choose the platform. So when we have a story, and once we've done those assignments, and once we've got our correspondents in the field and our digital journalists working together, we have to think about several things. We have to consider, if we're getting the right content to the right audiences, what trends and data can I act upon? That's really feeding back in that audience interaction back into your work. How are we tracking? And what technology can I use, and what next? So we're always thinking about how we can evolve and how we can build on the ideas that we already have with these core principles. And this is the example from the royal wedding, very timely. So we talked about that holistic approach to going out and assigning a story. This is about how we display it and how we program it across our platforms. When we were planning the royal wedding, we think about it from all of our different angles. We think, okay, the social team comes in and says, this is what I think will work on our social platform. The VR team and the augmented reality team will be thinking about their specialism, but they'll be feeding that into a discussion. So we have 360 coverage, as well as our desktop TV, over-the-top experiences, and mobile. All of those teams come together to think about how we can be unique in each product that we have, each device that we have, and each treatment that we have. Oh, I've pressed the wrong button. And then we consider it from those different sections that I talked about. What is the expert area that CNN style can go after? Are they going to look at the fashion of the day because that's their core competency? Are we going to look at travel? Are they going to be focused on what the honeymoon is potentially going to be? Where does a prince and princess go on honeymoon? I'd love to know that. And then we have as well the money, the financial details behind it. Is it going to increase tourism? Is there going to be a tourism boom off of the world televised royal wedding? And we think about all of these different things. So we think about it from a product perspective and a platform perspective, and then we think about it from a storytelling and expertise perspective. And here's the fruit of all of the planning. Over here, we can see the news story on the far telephone screen there. You probably can't read it from where you are, but in the middle column there, these are actually screen grabs from the royal wedding, the day of the royal wedding. We can see where Prince Harry and Meghan went on their honeymoon, actually, I don't think we actually knew where they went on their honeymoon, so this is where will they go on their honeymoon, as well as the style story there, the green Jaguar one, and the over-the-top experience, which is our Gigapan. And if you actually have a look at this online, you can zoom in and get ultra-close look at the newlyweds and the parade and the pomp and pamptry. So we're thinking about how all of this ties in and how all of these different teams with different expertise can filter into our daily coverage and our daily news coverage, and how we can take advantage of that expertise that they have. Going back to Great Big Story, which is, again, a kind of separate editorial proposition, this is, again, about the right product and the right platform. Great Big Story is aimed at a different audience. They get 8 million views, I think that's a week. 90% of those are on mobile. And their audience is kind of different to the CNN audience. They're focused on travel and human interest stories. But again, that's to come to us for new opportunities, revenue opportunities. And click here, there's a video here. There's a different form of storytelling. So sometimes we have to think about what is a CNN story and what is a great big story. So we're at constant dialogue, again, across those departments, across those different products and those different properties, to think about the right type of audience and the right type of story and delivering it with the right type of expertise. I love this clip at the top, just the speed of the hand movement and those hammers, it's crazy. So when we have all of those different those different stories come in from whether it's a vertical or it's one of our departments like the video department or the augmented reality department or the VR department, we have to think about how we're programming. And we do that by making very informed decisions backed up by data. By monitoring SEO trends and tracking in real time. And here is an example of how we track in real time. This is a program called Chartbeat. This is something that all of our programmers use, and I'm sure some of you are familiar with this. And basically, the stories in green, there you can see a number next to them if you can see close enough. It gives you an idea of where they're ranking on the site. If you click into those stories, it will also tell you the number of unique users that are currently in the individual stories. It will give you a graph showing you how it's tracking and whether it's starting to filter off. And the ones in green are the ones that are doing very well, and the ones in reds are the ones that we need to work on a little bit more. And within this tool as well, we can do different headline testing, and I think we can now do image testing as well in there. So it's constantly sort of monitoring this to make sure that we are getting important stories with picking the right headline, the right description of them, the right image, and we're getting live feedback from our audience to give us the direction of what we want to, where we should be thinking about next and taking our stories forward. But also, some of the things in red there, we shouldn't purely be driven by these numbers. They're a great way for us to be informed, but we also need to use our journalistic intuition. So there are stories here that sometimes are in red that we know are fantastic stories. We just know by looking at this that we're not getting our audience engaged with them, and we need to think about why that is. So it helps us make informed decisions about our own practices and the way that we're approaching our stories. And our programming is different across all of these different properties that we keep talking about. This is a Google Stamp story designed again for mobile with this Insta Stories style presentation. So again, this is the right kind of treatment for this type of story. So we might just decide to do this just on Google Stamp. Which brings me on to my final lesson and my final best practice. Audience engagement. Publishing isn't the end. Follow up and take part in the conversation. We're just talking about audience engagement. So what do you do with that audience once you've got them engaged? Well, you listen to them, you respond to them, you make them part of your story. Oh, I've gone one too far. I have to click this through again. So we've been working very, very hard at trying to get our audience more engaged in our stories, and we have multiple different products there. That's the one that you were just looking at. I'm not going to go back and skip into it again. But that's how we use Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp Messenger, and we monitor our different platforms as well to make sure that we're considering all of the angles that we're getting offered to us from our audience on social platforms. This is a great piece about continuing the conversation. Through monitoring our analytics and listening to our audience, we discovered that gender inequality in developing nations was being drastically undercovered. And this is off the back of the Me Too movement and the Time's Up movements. 2017-18 have been a crazy year for gender equality movements. And this here is the product of some of that feedback that we got from our audience. And the team led by Blarned Healy and Inga Thorda, our leaders and International Digital, they come up with this, which was, again, gender equality in developing nations. It's a mobile-based product that's got incredibly high engagement, social engagement, is hitting niche audiences, telling personal, emotional stories, and really connecting with our audience because it's offering you a distinctive, impactful treatment and distinctive, impactful angle on a story that is hitting every single social channel and that is being so widely talked about. This is my Freedom Day. I'm going to show you this very quick clip.
What are you doing on March 14th?
All human beings have inherent dignity and deserve to be free.
It's when your freedom is denied is when you really feel it.
Don't be pushed around by people.
Freedom to me, it means never ever taking it for granted.
I will not rest until every living human being is free.
Join us on March 14th to stand up to slavery.
So this year we had our second iteration of My Freedom Day, which is again a cross-departmental project. Led and run by a team that both comes from digital and television to make sure that we're hitting as many of our audience as possible. And this one is fantastic for us because we work with thousands and thousands of schools all over the world to host a day of awareness that shines bright lights on an industry that thrives in the dark, modern-day slavery industry. And over a 4-month period, we use CNN's expansive digital reach on Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram to turn mobile phones into megaphones. And I've talked about this many times because this is a project that my team run. And as well as engaging with all of these different schools all over the world, thousands and thousands of different students filing their videos to us using the hashtag, we're also able to get various celebrities involved and really extend the reach beyond CNN's core audience. And it works. 1 billion plus impressions on Twitter, 1 million unique timelines hit, tens of millions of video views on Facebook and Instagram, and celebrities in, say, hundreds of schools. This, again, is thinking about having that conversation with our audience, involving them in the conversation, give them a mission to take part. And then what we can see is through that mission, we can reach as many people as many more people than we can just hit off of the core CNN accounts. And play through there. And the craft of storytelling is something that we're always considering, and we're not on our own here. Everybody is thinking about how they can tell stories in a different way. For My Freedom Day, it's about engaging with our audience. And this is another way of engaging with our audience. we can see here 3 different examples of different quirky pieces of coverage for the Winter Olympics. We have the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, and CNN. The CNN illustrator there, and we hired an illustrator who helped us with illustrations to cover all of our Winter Olympics. This person was actually sourced from social. They came to us, they sent us some clips, and we then ended up including them as a core component of our coverage. And I think we did something like 1 illustration every single day with a different athlete throughout the Olympics. And it's a really nice way to tie in that audience and those people who are getting in contact with you and engaged in your product, and giving them a voice on your platform and reflecting their expertise as well. So where we're talking about engaging that audience, CNN is also experimenting with live video interaction. Obviously, you saw the emergence of Facebook Live, and just about everybody was on there having these conversations. But what we've managed to do, both with this special around the World Cup draw and the daily news show, I think it's actually twice a week, not daily, twice a week news show that we have called CNN Talk, is actually we have some live streaming programs that live stream out on Facebook and have an audience engagement participation element to them. This is one of them. I'll show you a quick clip.
World Cup draw is almost here, and if you're as excited as we are, then this is the place to be. Hello and welcome to a first for CNN and our partners at Copper90, a World Cup draw show online and streamed across the globe.
We should be excited by that. We are watching history unfold in front of our eyes over the next half an hour.
Is the whole of Iceland at a standstill waiting for this draw?
Yeah, I think that's, not far from the truth.
What's the time over there?
Mate, it's about 2:20 in the morning.
Spain and Portugal have just been drawn against each other.
I'm shaking.
Wait. France, Peru, Denmark.
Oh, what a great group. Love it. Love it.
And I'll give you 50 to 1.
That's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your comments. Hope you enjoyed it. We certainly did. Bye for now.
So that's another example of where we have interacted with our audience to identify fans all over the world of these various different teams that are taking part in the World Cup draw, and actually using them to include them as part of our coverage and give them a voice live in our shows. So again, just trying those new things. And when we learn new things and when we talk to our audience, we do learn new things. Out of all of these sports here, we cover some pretty niche sports at CNN. Which of these sports do you think we have the largest engagement per story on, the largest amount of views per story on? Football? Rugby? Would you be surprised if I told you it's judo? Is interested in what they're engaging with. And also, we can grow those niche audiences off of the back of that information. So it's listening to your audience, allowing them to have a voice in your conversation, and then listening to them and giving them more of what they want, and thinking about the different angles that they want as well. And that's my presentation completely finished there. But what I want to do is I want to open it up for any questions.
Informbureau.kz. My question is according to the advertisement, online advertisement. So CNN made a milestone by investing to the digital platform, but if you take a look to the data that last year Time Warner lost 12% of their shares on online advertisement in the United States, and 9% of them were taken by the Google. And Google, Facebook, Twitter, they're taking out all shares of online advertising in the world. So is it a big concern to the CNN? And what do you think? What is, what CNN has to do to get out of this problem? Thank you.
I think it's a very, very interesting question. I think if we had a really good answer, then we would have probably fixed this by now. The one thing I would say on this question is those numbers that you're looking at, that's largely fueled by the domestic advertising sales side of our business. Internationally, we actually did incredibly well on digital advertising. I don't think it's not something that you can answer very, very easily. Facebook and Google are both eating into advertising revenues. I think we're at a time where that publishers are reevaluating their relationship with some of those different brands and trying to work around some of these issues. I think as well, programmatic advertising had a big part to play in those figures. But we feel confident as a business that we've invested in the right places, and if we grow the right type of niche audiences and give them the right type of products, that we can continue to grow our advertising revenue on digital platforms. So that's kind of, I can't really answer the question because we've got a whole team working on this issue, as well as so does every other media publishing organization out there, because it's not unique to CNN. Everyone is on Facebook, everyone is on Google, and we're trying to figure out how we work with those different platforms and how we engage with the audiences on those different platforms, but how we can retain as well our own business and our own business model.
CNN has internet sites. So does it mean that with the process of digitalization, CNN in future will stop to function on TV set? Working on computer and other IT products.
TV will continue to be on the television platform, or it will be on the digital platform in the future. Well, I think that television is still incredibly relevant to us. It's still thriving. Our business as a television network is still a thriving business. I think our whole industry is moving towards video-on-demand platforms, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, all of these different things. But the two things that you really want to watch live are breaking news and sport. And those things, they could be served on the digital platform, they could be served on the TV platform. But I think what you're already seeing is that line is blurring between what is television and what is digital. Because all of your smart TVs now all have VOD services, but they also have the option of watching things roll out live. So I think that it already has merged, and your TV set is actually a digital platform already. And it will continue to go that way. How far and how long, I don't know. But it's there.
Oh, thank you very much for your such an interesting presentation. And my question is, do you have office in Central Asia, in Tashkent and Almaty? And the related question, is our region interesting for your company?
Yeah, I think it is. I think I know we have different correspondents in different bureaus all over the world. Central Asia, I'm not quite sure what the capacity is here. Some of those bureaus are a couple of people working out of a small office, and some of them are fully fledged, that have 100 people. I work in a satellite bureau in London. I think anywhere where there are good stories is going to be where CNN comes. We've done a lot of reporting from Kazakhstan in the past, as well as all of the neighboring regions as well. I think where the stories are, we're being so heavily driven by the US story at the moment, because that is the global story. We see that reflected in the news today with Donald Trump's meeting with Kim Jong-un in Singapore, the proposal there, with the Iran deal. That US story is still an international story. So I think we're just covering stories that are important to our audience on the type of device that we have at the right type of time. So yes, it is important. Yes, we do have people here. It will continue to be important, but obviously the news agenda will dictate how and when.
If I open a CNN in my mobile phone, I can see a very long read posts, and people usually don't prefer to spend time to read all this because, for example, in our country, especially young audience, they don't like to waste their time on such long reads. So how can you advise how to attract people to open these long reads?
You have to let the journalism and the reporting dictate the length of the story. And there are stories where it's possible to be short and concise and considered, but there are stories that benefit from having very valuable context and an expansive look. Because if you're only looking through a very small hole at a story, you're not getting the full experience. So it's a balancing act. So we are always conscious of our mobile audience, and I think the average CNN story would probably be somewhere between 600 to 700 words long, maximum. Sometimes we will go over that. I've seen stories going to 2,500 words long. And of course, that's a challenge for our mobile audience. And I know we've done even longer than that. But you have to let the journalism dictate sometimes how you tell the story, what's the best angle here, because you're also providing a service to your audience, and you don't want to be giving them an abridged version of a full story. So I think quality journalism is going to attract and engage with your audience. You have to be mindful of people's time completely, and on breaking news stories and where you're issuing stories with updates, sometimes that's entirely possible to write a story in 400 words and deliver that to your audience. But when you're trying to explain to them and you're trying to bring them in and keep them informed, then you need to go a little bit longer. So I think the best way to get people to engage with your content and to click on it is for them to know that they're going to get a good story when they do click on something. Any more? Okay, I think that's wrap up then. Sue, I'm terribly sorry. I think I've gone a bit short.